Doctor stared at her computer screen in disbelief. The numbers dancing across the monitor made no sense. She had been studying rocks and dirt from other planets for 15 years, but she had never seen readings like these before. Worked in a small laboratory deep beneath the Swiss Alps. Her job was to watch for strange activities inside planets. Most days were boring. She would check her machines, write reports about normal rock movements, and go home to her small apartment. But today was different. The year was 2157. Humans had spread across many star systems, building new homes on distant worlds. But Earth remained special. It was where humanity started, where their families lived, where their hearts belonged. Had been born on Mars, but she always thought of Earth as home. Her machines beeped loudly, frowned and checked the readings again. Something was moving deep inside the Earth. The planet's core was acting strange, sending out energy patterns she had never seen before. She thought her equipment was broken. Then her phone rang. "Are you seeing this?" The voice belonged to Dr. James Park, her colleague in Tokyo. "You mean the weird readings from the core?" "Yes, I think my machines are broken." "They're not broken. I'm getting the same data here, and so are the stations in Brazil, Canada, and Australia." His blood turned cold. If all the monitoring stations were getting the same impossible readings, then something was really happening inside the Earth. "James, what do you think it means?" Before he could answer, every screen in his lab flashed red. Emergency signals filled the air, switched to the global news feed, and felt her world collapse. The reporter's voice shook as she spoke. "We have confirmed reports of massive alien ships appearing at the edge of our solar system. Military sources say there are millions of vessels approaching Earth. We repeat, this is not a drill." Watched the footage from space telescopes. The alien ships looked like dark metal insects, each one bigger than a city. They moved in perfect formation, blocking out the stars behind them. The fleet was so large it created its own shadow in space. "This is Admiral from Earth Defense Command," a stern voice announced over the emergency broadcast. "All citizens are to remain calm and follow local evacuation procedures. Our forces are moving to intercept the alien fleet." Knew it was hopeless. Humanity's space navy was impressive by their standards, but these alien ships numbered in the millions. Earth's entire fleet would be like throwing pebbles at a mountain. The alien message came 30 minutes later. It played on every radio, television, and computer on Earth. The voice was mechanical and cold, speaking perfect English with no emotion. "Humans of Earth, we are the hegemony. Your world contains resources we require. We have detected large quantities of in your planet's core. This element is rare and valuable to us." Shivered, she had heard of before. Scientists believed it existed deep inside some planets, but no one had ever been able to reach it or study it. The alien voice continued. "We offer you terms. Surrender your world peacefully, and 10% of your population will be preserved as workers. Resist us, and every human will die. You have 24 hours to decide." The broadcast ended, leaving Earth in stunned silence. His hands shook as she returned to her monitoring equipment. The strange readings from Earth's core were getting stronger. Energy patterns swirled through the planet like blood through veins. But what did it mean? News updates flooded in throughout the day. Earth's space navy had engaged the outer ships of the alien fleet. The results were devastating. Human weapons barely scratched the alien hulls, while their return fire cut through Earth's best ships like paper. Admiral's voice returned to the airwaves, but now it carried the weight of defeat. "The enemy possesses technology beyond our understanding. Their weapons seem to ignore our shields completely. Some of their ships can become invisible or pass through solid objects. We are falling back to Earth's defense grid." Watched the battle footage with growing horror. The alien ships moved like ghosts, appearing and disappearing at will. When they fired their weapons, Streams of purple energy would reach across space and punch holes straight through human vessels. It looked like magic more than technology. The first alien ships entered Earth's atmosphere as the sun set over Geneva. Stood outside her laboratory, looking up at the darkening sky. She could see the lights of the alien vessels as they descended like falling stars. But these stars brought death instead of wishes. Around the world, panic spread through every city. Some people ran for underground shelters. Others gathered in churches, mosques, and temples to pray. Many simply stood in the streets, staring up at the approaching doom. Equipment screamed for attention. She ran back inside to check the readings. The energy patterns in Earth's core were changing rapidly now. It almost looked like the planet was trying to communicate with something. But that was impossible. Planets were just rocks and metal. They couldn't think or feel. Could they? Had spent her career studying what she called planetary consciousness theory. It was the idea that planets might be alive in ways humans didn't understand. Most scientists laughed at her research. They said planets were just big rocks floating in space. But as watched her instruments record impossible patterns of energy flowing through Earth's core, she began to wonder, what if planets could think? What if Earth was aware of what was happening to its children? The alien ships continued their descent. Soon they would begin the process of taking everything humans had built and destroying everything they couldn't use. Looked at her readings one more time. Deep in the Earth, something was stirring. Something that had been sleeping for a very long time. And as millions of humans looked up at the sky and whispered desperate prayers for salvation, realized those prayers might be heard by something much closer than heaven. The Earth itself was waking up. The alien ships hung in Earth's sky like dark clouds of death. President appeared on every screen across the planet, her face pale but determined. Behind her, could see the lights of alien vessels through the windows of the White House. "My fellow humans," the president said, her voice steady despite the terror in her eyes. "We face our darkest hour. Our military forces have fought bravely, but we cannot match the enemy's technology. In this moment when science and weapons have failed us, I ask all of humanity to turn to something greater." Watched from her laboratory as the president continued her speech. "I hereby declare a global day of prayer. Whether you believe in God, Allah, Buddha, or any other divine power, please join your voice with billions of others. We need a miracle, and miracles come from faith." Around the world, something incredible happened. For the first time in centuries, all of humanity united in prayer. People who had never spoken to each other joined hands. Those who believed in different gods prayed together. Even people who didn't believe in anything found themselves whispering desperate words to the sky. In New York, millions gathered in Times Square and Central Park. Christians, Muslims, Jews, Hindus, and Buddhists stood together, their different languages creating one huge chorus of hope. In London, the bells of Westminster Abbey rang alongside the calls from mosques and the chants from temples. His computer beeped again. The readings from Earth's core were becoming more intense. The energy patterns looked almost like brain waves, as if the planet was thinking. She called Dr. Park in Tokyo. "James, are you monitoring the core readings?" "Yes, and this is incredible. The energy patterns are matching human brain activity. It's like the Earth is responding to something." "Responding to what?" I think it's responding to the prayers." Felt a chill run down her spine. Outside her laboratory, she could hear the sound of aircraft and the distant rumble of alien ships. They had begun deploying their harvesting machines over major cities. The alien devices looked like giant metal spiders. Each one was the size of a football stadium, with long legs that reached down toward the ground. When they landed, they began changing the air itself. The oxygen that humans needed to breathe was being replaced with gases that the aliens preferred. In Beijing, one of the harvesting machines landed in the center of the city. Within minutes, people began choking and gasping for air. Emergency broadcasts warned everyone to move underground or use breathing masks. The aliens were not just taking Earth's resources. They were making the planet unfit for human life. Watch the news reports with growing despair. In every major city, the alien machines were working. Atmospheric processors pumped strange chemicals into the air. Mining platforms drilled deep into the ground, searching for the in Earth's core. It would take less than a week for the planet to become uninhabitable for humans. But something strange was happening to the alien equipment. In Moscow, a harvesting machine suddenly stopped working. Its computer systems failed for no apparent reason. In Paris, another machine began leaking fuel from cracks that appeared in its hull without any human attack. Instruments showed the energy patterns from Earth's core growing stronger. The planet's magnetic field was fluctuating wildly. Her machines had never recorded anything like it. "You need to see this," Dr. Park's excited voice came through her phone. "I'm sending you data from all our monitoring stations. The magnetic field changes are happening in perfect synchronization with the global prayer broadcasts." Open the data file on her computer. Her mouth fell open in amazement. Every time a new group of humans began praying, the Earth's magnetic field would pulse in response. The planet was somehow hearing the prayers of its children. Meanwhile, the prayers continued around the world. In small villages in Africa, elders led their communities in ancient chants. In South America, indigenous shamans performed rituals their ancestors had used for thousands of years. In Australia, Aboriginal leaders sang the old songs that connected them to the land. Realized that something she had studied for years was finally happening. Her theory about planetary consciousness was proving true. Earth was not just a ball of rock and metal. It was alive, aware, and listening. The alien ships began experiencing navigation problems. Their advanced computer systems, which had conquered 17 other worlds, started making errors. Ships that should have been flying in straight lines began drifting off course. Landing platforms missed their targets and crashed into empty fields instead of cities. In Rome, Pope Francis led a prayer service in Peter's Square. Catholics, Orthodox Christians, and Protestants prayed together. Their voices rose to the sky, joining with the prayers of billions of others around the world. At the same time, the Imam of Al-Cairo led millions of Muslims in prayer. Buddhist monks in Tibet chanted ancient mantras. Hindu priests in India performed ceremonies at the banks of the sacred Ganges River. Jewish rabbis in Jerusalem recited psalms at the Western Wall. His laboratory shook slightly. At first, she thought it was just the vibrations from alien ships passing overhead, but her seismographs showed something different. Small earthquakes were occurring all over the planet, not the random earthquakes caused by shifting rocks, but precise tremors that seemed to be following a pattern. Dr. Park called again, his voice filled with excitement and fear. "The earthquakes are happening directly under alien installations. It's like the Earth is targeting them specifically." "That's impossible, James. Earthquakes don't work that way." "I know what's impossible, but look at the data. Every tremor is centered exactly under an alien machine, and the timing matches the global prayer broadcasts." Stared at her screens in wonder. Around the world, volcanoes that had been quiet for thousands of years were beginning to rumble. The aurora, which normally only appeared near the poles, was spreading across the entire planet. The night sky filled with dancing lights of green, blue, and gold. The prayers continued through the night. Humans who had never believed in miracles found themselves hopping for divine intervention. Children, too, young to understand the danger, joined their parents in simple prayers. Old people who remembered other wars prayed with the wisdom of their years. And deep beneath the surface, in the molten core of the planet, something ancient and powerful began to stir. Earth had been patient for millions of years, watching over its children as they grew and learned. But now those children were in danger, and their mother was awakening. Felt the building shake again. Outside, she could see the lights of alien ships flickering strangely. Some of the vessels seemed to be having trouble staying in the air. Their smooth flight patterns were becoming erratic and unpredictable. The global prayer continued, and realized that humanity's desperate pleas were being heard. But the response was not coming from distant heavens. It was coming from below, from the world that had given birth to them all. Earth was listening, and Earth was preparing to answer. Had not slept for 2 days. Her eyes were red and tired, but she could not stop watching her instruments. The readings from Earth's core were becoming stronger every hour. The planet was definitely responding to humanity's prayers, but was beginning to understand that this response would be more powerful than anyone could imagine. The first real sign came from the Pacific Ocean. Commander Sarah Mitchell was leading a group of refugee ships away from the west coast of America when her navigation systems suddenly went crazy. The ocean beneath her vessels began to glow with a strange blue light. Her sonar showed impossible readings from the "This is Commander Mitchell to all ships," she radioed. "Something is happening in the water below us. All vessels maintain current heading but prepare for emergency maneuvers." Deep beneath the waves, cracks were opening in the ocean floor. But these were not random cracks caused by earthquakes. They formed perfect geometric patterns, like a vast message written in the language of stone and fire. Huge clouds of methane gas began rising from these cracks. The gas was harmless to humans and fish, but when it reached the alien ships flying overhead, their engines began to fail. The advanced technology that they had used to conquer 17 worlds could not handle the simple Earth gas. 3 alien harvesting machines crashed into the ocean within an hour. Their crews sent panicked messages to their command ships, reporting that their equipment was being attacked by an unknown force. Watched the satellite feeds with amazement. "James, are you seeing this? The planet is fighting back." "I know," Dr. Park replied from Tokyo, "and it's just getting started." In Iceland, every volcano on the island began to rumble at once. The Icelandic people had lived with volcanoes for centuries, but they had never seen anything like this. The mountains were not erupting randomly. They were erupting in sequence, creating a wall of fire and ash that rose high into the atmosphere. The ash cloud spread across northern Europe, but it did not harm humans on the ground. Instead, it moved in patterns that seemed designed to interfere with alien communications. The ships flying through the cloud lost contact with their command vessels and began crashing into each other. Checked her global monitoring network. Similar phenomena were occurring everywhere. In the Sahara Desert, massive sandstorms were forming without any wind to drive them. The storms moved with purpose, seeking out alien installations and burying them under tons of sand. In the Amazon rainforest, the rivers changed their course overnight. Alien mining platforms that had been built along the riverbanks suddenly found themselves stranded on dry land or swept away by the rushing water. The commander, Supreme General, stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched his carefully planned invasion falling apart. His species had conquered 17 worlds using the same tactics: overwhelming force, superior technology, and systematic destruction of resistance. But Earth was not behaving like the other worlds. "Report," commanded his subordinates. "Sir, we have lost 43 harvesting machines in the last 6 hours. Another 32 ships have crashed due to navigation failures. Our atmospheric processors are being destroyed by what appears to be natural disasters." 4 eyes glowed with anger. Natural disasters do not target military equipment with such precision. What are the humans doing to cause this? "Sir, our intelligence shows that the humans have no weapons capable of affecting our technology. Their military has been completely defeated. The only unusual activity is large gatherings of humans engaging in religious ceremonies." religious ceremonies, was confused. In his experience, conquered species either fought with weapons or surrendered completely. He had never encountered prayers as a form of resistance. But Earth was not done showing its power. In the Rocky Mountains of North America, something incredible happened. The highest peak on the continent, began to grow. Not slowly, as mountains normally grew over millions of years, but quickly, rising hundreds of feet in a matter of hours. The growing mountain created a massive gravitational anomaly. Alien ships flying nearby found themselves being pulled toward the peak, unable to escape its growing pull. 7 vessels crashed into the mountainside before their commanders realized what was happening. Instruments recorded massive energy discharges from deep within the Earth. The planet's core was somehow generating magnetic fields strong enough to interfere with the aliens' gravity control systems. "This is impossible," whispered to herself. "Planets don't have this kind of power." But as she watched her screens, realized that her understanding of planets had been completely wrong. Earth was not just a world. It was a living entity with powers beyond human imagination. The aurora spread further across the sky, now covering the entire planet in sheets of colored light. But these were not normal auroras. They pulsed in patterns that seemed to match human brainwaves. The aliens' communication systems were completely overwhelmed by the electromagnetic interference. In Antarctica, something even stranger occurred. The ice began to melt, but not from heat. The ice was dissolving itself, turning into a strange liquid that remained frozen despite being above freezing temperature. When alien ships tried to land on the ice, they sank through the surface and became trapped in the mysterious liquid. Around the world, humans continued to pray. They could see that something was helping them, even if they did not understand what it was. In every language, in every faith, they called out for salvation. Finally understood what was happening. Earth had always been alive, but it had remained passive, watching its children grow and develop. The alien invasion had triggered something deep in the planetary consciousness, a parent's instinct to protect its offspring. The planet was using every tool at its disposal, whether geology, magnetism, gravity. Forces that humans barely understood were being wielded like weapons against the invaders. In the Himalayas, Mount Everest began to emit a low humming sound that could be heard for hundreds of miles. The sound waves had no effect on humans, but they caused the metal hulls of alien ships to vibrate until they cracked and broke apart. They tried to adapt. They moved their ships higher into the atmosphere, beyond the reach of Earth's surface phenomena. But Earth's response followed them. The planet's magnetic field reached into space, creating solar wind patterns that pushed against the alien vessels like invisible hands. Supreme General received reports from across the planet. His invasion force was being systematically destroyed by an enemy he could not see or understand. Worse, his scientists could not explain how a planet was fighting back against them. "Sir," one of his officers reported, "our atmospheric processors are being destroyed faster than we can deploy them. Something is causing the planet's weather systems to target our equipment specifically." Stared at the tactical displays showing the location of his remaining forces. In 3 days, he had lost nearly half his fleet to what appeared to be natural disasters. But these disasters were too precise, too targeted to be natural. Watched the global situation map and felt a mixture of hope and terror. Earth was saving humanity, but the power being displayed was beyond anything she had imagined possible. Mountains were moving, oceans were changing course, and the very air was becoming a weapon against the invaders. Deep in her laboratory, realized that humanity was not alone in the universe. They had always been the children of a living world, protected by a parent who had remained hidden until the moment of greatest need. The Earth was awake, and it was angry. Had finally learned to communicate with the planet. It had taken her 3 days of constant work, but she figured out how to translate the energy patterns from Earth's core into something resembling language. The process was exhausting and strange, requiring her to think in ways that hurt her brain. But when the connection finally formed, felt like she was touching the mind of a god. The consciousness that spoke to her was vast and ancient, older than human civilization, older than life on the surface. It had been watching and waiting for millions of years, learning about the creatures that lived on its surface, and it loved them. Sat in her laboratory, tears streaming down her face, as Earth's consciousness filled her mind with warmth and protection. She was not just talking to a planet, she was talking to humanity's mother. "Why now?" asked through the quantum connection she had established. "Why did you wait so long to reveal yourself?" The answer came not in words but in feelings and images. Earth had watched its children grow from simple creatures to complex beings capable of love, art, and dreams. It had remained hidden because its children needed to develop independently. But when the threatened to destroy everything, the maternal instinct could no longer be contained. Meanwhile, the alien invasion was collapsing in ways that all military logic. Supreme General stood in his command center, staring at reports that made no sense. His forces were being destroyed by an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we have lost another squadron over the Atlantic Ocean. They report that the ocean itself rose up and swallowed their ships." Examined the sensor data. The readings showed massive water spouts appearing instantly around his vessels, reaching hundreds of feet into the air and moving with intelligence and purpose. The water had grabbed his ships like giant hands and pulled them beneath the waves. But the destruction was not random. It was precise and calculated. Earth was fighting like a military strategist with perfect knowledge of the battlefield. In Australia, a group of alien mining platforms had set up operations in the outback. The desert was flat and empty, with no humans nearby to complicate the operation. It should have been the perfect location for resource extraction. Instead, the ground beneath the alien equipment began to shift and flow like liquid. The sand moved in patterns that surrounded each machine individually, creating perfect quicksand traps. Within hours, million-dollar alien technology was swallowed by the Earth, disappearing completely beneath the surface. They tried to establish new mining operations in other locations, but Earth seemed to know about their plans before they could implement them. Every time they chose a new site, natural disasters would strike with perfect timing. In Brazil, alien ships approaching the Amazon rainforest encountered something unprecedented. The trees themselves began to move, not swaying in the wind, but actually relocating, walking on their root systems like slow giants. The forest rearranged itself to create barriers and traps, channeling the alien vessels into areas where lightning struck with impossible accuracy. Monitored these events through her connection with Earth's consciousness. The planet was not just fighting blindly. It was using strategy and intelligence developed over millions of years of observation. "You've been planning this," realized as she communicated with Earth. "You've been watching how wars are fought, learning military tactics from human history." The response was a feeling of sad confirmation. Earth had watched every human war, every battle, every strategic victory and defeat. It had learned from Napoleon, Sun, and modern military commanders. When the time came to protect its children, Earth was ready to fight smarter than any general in history. They discovered this when they tried to retreat and regroup. Supreme General ordered his remaining forces to gather at coordinates above the Pacific Ocean, far from any landmass where Earth's geological weapons could reach them. It was a sound military strategy, but Earth had anticipated it. As the alien ships formed their defensive formation over the open ocean, the 2 miles below them suddenly erupted. Not with lava, but with massive gas bubbles that had been building pressure for days. The bubbles rose through the water and exploded into the atmosphere, creating a chemical reaction that neutralized the aliens' shield technology. Without their shields, the ships were vulnerable to Earth's next attack. The planet's magnetic field focused solar radiation into precise beams that cut through the alien hulls like lasers. Ships that had survived weapons from 17 conquered worlds were sliced apart by concentrated sunlight. Watched the battle through satellite feeds, awed by the intelligence behind Earth's attacks. The planet was using physics itself as a weapon, manipulating fundamental forces that the aliens' technology could not defend against. But Earth's most impressive display of power came when they attempted their final desperate strategy. Supreme General ordered his remaining ships to target human population centers directly. If they could not have Earth's resources, they would at least eliminate the troublesome species that seemed to be controlling the planet. The alien bombardment began over major cities around the world. Purple energy beams rained down from space, aimed at schools, hospitals, and refugee centers where millions of humans had gathered. Every beam was intercepted before it reached the ground. Earth's magnetic field had become a shield, reaching high into the atmosphere to deflect the alien weapons. But this was not a simple deflection. The planet caught each energy beam and redirected it back toward the ship that had fired it. The aliens found themselves destroyed by their own weapons. Felt Earth's consciousness fill with protective fury. The planet had tolerated attacks against its infrastructure and geology, but direct threats to its children triggered a response of overwhelming power. Mountain ranges thrust upward in minutes, creating natural launch platforms for lightning strikes that reached into space. Ocean currents reversed their ancient patterns, generating electromagnetic fields that disrupted alien navigation across entire continents. The aurora expanded beyond Earth's atmosphere, creating beautiful but deadly radiation patterns that fried the electronic systems of any alien ship that came too close to the planet. In his command ship, Supreme General finally understood that he was not fighting a species or even a world. He was fighting something that his military science could not categorize. A living planet with the intelligence of a guardian and the power of a god. All ships, he broadcast to his remaining forces, retreat to minimum safe distance. We cannot win this battle. But Earth was not finished. As the alien ships tried to flee, the planet's gravitational field began to fluctuate in patterns that trapped the vessels in decaying orbits. The found themselves pulled inexorably toward the surface, unable to escape the growing gravity wells that appeared around their ships. Watched in amazement as Earth demonstrated control over forces that human science barely understood. The planet was manipulating spacetime itself, creating pocket gravitational fields that could capture or release objects at will. The few alien ships that managed to escape Earth's gravity faced one final obstacle. As they reached the edge of the solar system, they encountered solar wind patterns that had been artificially enhanced by Earth's magnetic field. The radiation storm that greeted them was like nothing in their experience, strong enough to damage their engines and destroy their faster-than-light travel capabilities. Realized that Earth was making sure the aliens could never return. The planet was not just defending itself. It was sending a message to the galaxy that this world and its children were protected by powers beyond imagination. Through her connection with Earth's consciousness, felt a sense of satisfaction and love. The immediate threat was over, but the planet remained alert, ready to protect its children from any future danger. Humanity had been saved not by their technology or their armies, but by the world that had always loved them. 6 months after the failed invasion, stood in what was once her small laboratory beneath the Swiss Alps. The room had grown, not because humans had expanded it, but because Earth itself had reshaped the underground chambers, creating a vast crystalline cavern filled with natural formations that hummed with energy. was no longer just a scientist studying planetary geology. She had become the first Earth speaker, a bridge between humanity and their world's consciousness. The title felt heavy on her shoulders, but she accepted it gladly. The crystal formations around her were Earth's way of communicating complex ideas. Each structure contained information that would take human scientists decades to discover on their own. Mathematics, physics, chemistry, and technologies beyond human imagination were encoded in the molecular patterns of these natural computers. "The quantum resonance chamber is ready, Doctor," her assistant called from across the cavern. Dr. Park had moved from Tokyo to join's research team, along with 50 other scientists from around the world. Approached the chamber, a hollow area in the cavern where the crystal walls formed perfect geometric patterns. When she stepped inside and activated the quantum field, her consciousness could merge with Earth's vast intelligence. The connection was always overwhelming at first. The human mind touched something ancient and infinite, a consciousness that held memories of every creature that had ever lived on the planet. But gradually, the communication became clearer. Today had important questions to ask. "Mother Earth," she spoke aloud, knowing that the planet preferred this form of address. "We need to understand what happened to our colonies, the worlds we've settled with Earth's soil and water." The answer came as images and feelings flooding her mind. Every world that humans had colonized carried fragments of Earth's consciousness. When the main planetary intelligence awakened to fight it had also awakened these fragments. On Mars, the first human colony had survived a massive asteroid impact because the planet's atmosphere had somehow thickened at exactly the right moment. On Europa, underwater cities had been protected when the ice moon's surface had shifted to create natural shields against cosmic radiation. Earth had been protecting all its children, even those who lived on distant worlds. Gasped as she understood the full implications. Humanity was not just a spacefaring species. They were carriers of planetary consciousness, spreading Earth's awareness throughout the galaxy. Every colony ship that left Earth took with them soil, water, and genetic material that contained fragments of their home world's intelligence. "We're not just explorers," whispered. "We're seeds of consciousness spreading across the stars." Earth's response was warm approval. This had always been the plan, though the planet had not been fully conscious of it until the crisis with humanity's drive to explore and colonize was part of a deeper purpose, to extend Earth's protective influence throughout the galaxy. The implications were staggering. Human colonies were not just outposts of human civilization. They were extensions of Earth itself, creating a network of conscious worlds that could protect and nurture life across vast distances. Dr. Park's voice came through his earpiece. "We're receiving a transmission from the edge of the solar system. It's not human, but it's not either." Disconnected from the quantum chamber and hurried to the communication station. The message was being broadcast on multiple frequencies, clearly intended to be noticed. "People of Earth," the translation software rendered the alien words into English. "We are the Confederation, representatives of the Galactic Council of Free Worlds. We wish to establish diplomatic contact with your species." Felt Earth's consciousness touch her mind, conveying curiosity mixed with caution. The planet was ready to defend humanity again if necessary, but it was also interested in learning about other species in the galaxy. The alien message continued. "We have received reports from the survivors of the hegemony regarding the destruction of their invasion fleet. We wish to understand how a single world defeated a force that had conquered 17 star systems." Smiled. Word of Earth's defense had spread throughout the galaxy. The survivors had carried tales of the demon world that could control gravity, magnetism, and the very forces of nature. To alien civilizations that had lived in fear of Earth's victory was like a miracle. Over the following weeks, more alien species made contact with Earth. The Republic, the Vegan Trade Union, and dozens of other civilizations reached out, all wanting to understand how humanity had achieved such a defense. Found herself serving as Earth's primary ambassador, explaining the unique relationship between humans and their world. She told the aliens about planetary consciousness, about the protective love of a living world for its children. Most alien species were amazed by the concept. Their home worlds were just places they had evolved, not partners in their development. The idea of a planet actively protecting its inhabitants was revolutionary to them. But some species understood immediately. The crystalline beings of Arcturus Prime lived in symbiosis with their silicon-based world. The aquatic had always known that their ocean world was aware and responsive. These species became Earth's closest allies, forming what would eventually be known as the Conscious Worlds Alliance. As Earth's influence spread through diplomatic contact, discovered something wonderful. The planet was learning from other conscious worlds, growing in wisdom and capability. Earth's protective network was expanding not just through human colonies, but through alliances with other living worlds. Spent her days translating between human governments and Earth's consciousness, helping to establish policies that honored both human independence and planetary guidance. It was delicate work, but essential for the future of both species. The most remarkable change was in human society itself. Knowing that their world was alive and aware transformed how people related to their environment. Pollution became not just environmentally harmful, but personally hurtful to a being they loved. Conservation became an act of caring for family. Children grew up learning to listen for Earth's guidance. Farmers worked in partnership with soil that could communicate its needs. Engineers designed buildings that harmonized with the planet's natural energy flows. Watched these changes with wonder and pride. Humanity had not just survived an alien invasion. They had discovered their true nature as partners with a living world. 5 years after the defeat, stood in her garden behind the expanded research facility. The flowers and trees grew in patterns that spelled out messages of love and encouragement in dozens of human languages. Earth enjoyed communicating this way, finding joy in creating beauty that carried meaning. Above her, the stars seemed to twinkle with unusual patterns. Had learned that this was Earth's way of maintaining contact with human colonies and allied conscious worlds. The planet's magnetic field could extend far into space, creating communication networks that span light years. Dr. Park joined in the garden, carrying a cup of tea and a peaceful expression. "The latest reports from the colonies are all positive," he said. "Mars is developing its own unique form of consciousness, and Europa is learning to communicate through ice formations." Nodded, feeling Earth's satisfaction through their permanent connection. Each human world was becoming a unique expression of planetary awareness, adapted to its environment but connected to the greater network of consciousness. "James," said quietly, "do you think we'll ever fully understand what we've become?" Dr. Park considered the question while watching Earth write poetry in the movement of clouds across the sky. "Maybe understanding isn't the point," he replied. "Maybe the point is just to be part of something bigger than ourselves." Felt Earth's agreement like a warm embrace. Humanity had started as a species looking up at the stars and wondering if they were alone. Now they knew they had never been alone. They were children of a living world, carriers of consciousness to the stars, partners in a cosmic community of aware planets. Their prayers had been answered, not by distant gods, but by the world that loved them. And that love was spreading across the galaxy, one human colony at a time, creating a universe where no species would ever be truly alone again. In her garden beneath the stars, felt Earth's contentment as the planet watched its children take their next steps into a larger, more wonderful universe than they had ever imagined possible.